Hello, this is WCCX Waukesha 104.5, and this is
D&D with B&D, saying a lot to somebody. Hello, Brad Weller. This is Drew Sherrod and Brad Weller coming back with our weekly D&D with B&D show, where we talk about Dungeons and Dragons. Let's see here. As we talked about last time, we've changed our audience name from Nobody to Somebody? Question mark?
I'm still not
because there's probably somebody listening to us right now.
Right.
My headphones obviously aren't working, Brad. So am I actually coming through on this microphone before we get too far into this?
Say something.
Hello.
Yes,
Hello.
You are whispering into my ear.
This is an amazing ASMR video.
No.
All right.
Okay.
So, Bradley, how was your morning today?
My morning was fine, starting with an 8 a.m. Showed up on time.
8 a.m. I thankfully do not have any 8 a.m.s this semester, and have not since my first semester.
It wasn't
specifically said no thanks to that after first semester.
No other option.
But my morning was interesting. I woke up, Bradley, and I didn't tell you this story specifically so I could tell you it on air.
Yes.
I woke up covered in blood.
What?
Yeah, I woke up covered in blood this morning.
Did you wake up with a nosebleed?
Yes, I did.
I've done it so many times!
With a nosebleed this morning. It was pretty awful. I woke up, I was like groggily waking up, and I was like, that's weird. My nose is really runny. Oh, that's blood. Oh, okay. But I was like really groggy and sleepy, so like I put my head back down in the pillow, and I was like, "Oh, that's blood!" And I ran to the bathroom and cleaned it up. And of course, being me that I am, I woke up without any sort of alarm at 5 a.m. So then I had to go back to sleep for a few hours after that. But yeah, I just woke up covered in blood from bloody nose. And I'm like, that's such a weird thing to me. I've never had that happen to me, first of all. But does it just, like, start on command when you wake up? Because it didn't seem to be flowing before I woke up. It just suddenly started when I woke up.
Your body's more awake when you're awake than when you're sleeping.
I suppose, but, like...
And then because it's so dry, your nose is like, hey, now we can have blood go through there. When he wakes up, we're gonna
what
get
I
him.
Figure is what caused it is the temperature right now and the dryness of everything right now.
Yeah.
But I was not expecting it.
Yeah.
That and yesterday, I was grabbing a kid at the daycare I work at. I was grabbing him, and he did a little tantrum thing, and his head went back and bashed me right in the nose. So that might have loosened it up for or that.
Are you sure you weren't just having a dream with a patron, being a warlock?
No, I'm sure I wasn't.
Sure.
Are there vampire patrons?
Oh,
Maybe
yeah.
I have a vampire patron.
Undead.
No, I was not.
Talked about that
Way to bring it
last
back to nerdy stuff, though, for our Dungeons and Dragons podcast.
Oh, yeah.
I guess that's where we'll bring it in today. So yeah, we're talking today, as we talked about last time with our schedule, we are talking about the 9 different alignments. As quickly as possible, but we probably will go a little late today. We'll see how it goes. But first of all, the alignments are, to begin with, we talked about it a little bit last time, but the alignments are basically your character's moral compass in Dungeons and Dragons. If you haven't listened to any of our stuff before, we don't really have a lot of time to catch you up on what Dungeons and Dragons is.
This is the least Dungeons and Dragons rule-wise there is.
That's true. This can be used for, that too, I guess. But I would say that real human beings don't necessarily always fall under these 9
definitely
principles.
Not. This is a game trying to simulate
real life, trying
characters.
to simplify the complexities that humanity has pondered over for millennia into 9 different archetypes.
Yes,
because that's how the world works. We all fall under 9 different archetypes.
Yes.
So yes, the 9 different alignments range on a scale from lawful, so like just kind of a society-driven focus and like focusing on
like rules,
your own rules, either internal rules or outer societal rules. And then chaotic is the other side of that one, which is like more freedom based, more do as you will sort of thing. And then the other scale is obviously the evil to good scale, which is the one that's more pondered about in our world today. What is evil? What is good? Sort of thing. And those range, so like you've got lawful on the left and right scale and evil good on the top and bottom. So you have lawful good, neutral good, chaotic good, and then you have a neutral scale as well, lawful neutral, neutral, true neutral, and chaotic neutral, and then lawful evil, neutral evil, chaotic evil.
So basically, it's a grid of 9 different squares.
Yes. And they're all, you can shift between them a bunch. Some people have made wider varieties, but most of those I think are interesting, but they don't really explain what all the squares mean, so it's not very helpful. But yeah, so today we're going to talk about each of the alignments as quickly as we can. I'd love to someday do a show on each of these alignments, but obviously we want to do basic stuff right now because we're only still catching up everyone to the basics. So to start off, we'll start with an alignment that I feel like it's looked down on a lot, unfortunately, lawful good, which I really love the alignment of lawful good. The reason lawful good is looked down on is because it's your it has to follow, supposedly it has to follow a lot of strict rules, which I would argue a lot of the different alignments need to follow some sort of rules in some ways, but it has to follow a lot of strict rules, and so players feel restricted in playing it a lot of times. Also, when you have a lawful good character, a lot of players feel like that lawful good character imposes their rules and their goodness on the rest of the party and makes them not able to do as much whatever they want to do in the party.
Yeah, I made a lawful good character once, and everyone just kept on griping on my character being lawful good.
Yeah.
Even though he had a lot of other qualities about him.
Yeah, that's the thing, is I don't think lawful good is the only quality that should matter in a character, and I don't think for most characters, alignment is the only thing that should matter. But like, people seem to think that you can't make a fun lawful good character. They like to make them very staunch and upright citizens, and they are a lot of them in some ways. But you can really easily make a lawful good character. So to go over the qualities of a lawful good character, they do almost always have a clear set of morals. They have a strict line of this is right and this is wrong, and there is no crossing that boundary.
Oh, no.
You don't murder innocents. I mean, most of the good alignments,
to
an extent, and believe that. But you don't steal. You don't lie. They're very big on telling the truth and keeping their word. That's more of the lawful qualities. At least you try to be. So the one thing I will say with lawful good characters and with all alignments is you need to remember that one little act you go out of alignment isn't going to shift shouldn't, at least if you have a DM, completely shift your character. Sometimes there are rules that need to be broken, and that just is true of all things. Like, someone was arguing with me the other day that Obi-Wan Kenobi is not lawful good because he, in the books, broke his promise and kind of was interested in a girl, which, first of all, isn't technically breaking the rules if he's just interested in a girl and doesn't do anything about it. But also it's like, yeah, but everything else, every single other moment of his legacy is lawful good. You can't take that one moment and suddenly say, oh, because he did that one thing, he's not lawful good. Like, that doesn't... you're gonna have indiscrepancies. You're a human being. And that's why... but yeah. What were you going to say, Brad, about telling the truth and keeping your word?
I feel like another thing with lawful good is, like, not all of these are hard set rules, just like guidelines / what all lawful goods would do.
Yeah. Lawful good characters oftentimes oppose evil, but a lot of people play this too hardcore. Like, a lawful good character, if they're smart, is not going to be stupid about how they fight lawful good. like, for instance, if you're a paladin and you have the detect evil ability, if you're not going to walk into a bar, use detect evil on the bar, and just instantly go and murder every evil person in the bar. No. That's not how it works. You're not a crusader. Crusaders, I would argue, are not lawful good. They're lawful evil, or lawful neutral at best. This typical crusader of our history. But yeah, lawful good characters believe in orderly, strong societies, that orderly, strong societies can endow goodness upon people. They take law and good as a hand-in-hand thing. They're almost the same thing to them. Law is what causes, law and order in society is what causes people to do good. It's what fuels, it's the path to good, essentially. Or good is just, I can't think of the wording I was going to use for that. But they're
very connected.
Good is law, essentially. Yeah, good and law are the same thing for most of them. Now, with a lawful good character, you're never going to have a perfectly lawful good character equalized. You're either going to lean more towards law or lean more towards good in a little bit of ways. That might be at different times, but it's very hard to be perfectly lawful good. And something to also remember about lawful good characters is they're not just like all like, oh yeah, we should imprison all these peasants because they were stealing bread and stuff. You got to remember that a lawful good character, their zeal is still essentially for the people. That would be more equivalent of a lawful neutral character, what I just said. They still want to help people. And so a lawful good character is not going to necessarily instantly imprison a bunch of peasants who are stealing food just because they're stealing food. A lawful good character is far more likely to be like, hey guys, this is why we don't do this, and let me help you out a little bit. Now if you do it a second time, maybe then they'll imprison you. But they're not going to instantly bring you to a court justice, because that's just going to cause them to not learn their lesson and come back and do this all over again. A lawful good character is still smart. They still want to change people to the lawful side. They don't want to just impose law. They want to make other people see things the way that they do. Which can get annoying, and people take it too far sometimes. And something important to remember is that when you're a lawful good character and you're going into other lawful societies, the laws of your city aren't what you should, or your internal self aren't usually what they should impose. A lawful good character obeys the laws of whatever society they're in most of the time. Mm-hmm. And if they see a problem with that society, with the laws, they try to work within the law usually to correct that law.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
They don't kill innocents, obviously. They don't kill for personal gain only. But yeah, I think that was everything I had on lawful good characters. I really like lawful good characters. I think people oftentimes play them as boring and staunch characters, but I've seen a lot of good lawful good sassy characters, like Obi-Wan Kenobi is very sassy, and Nick Valentine from the Fallout series.
Oh yeah.
And another good character I know is from the Blacklist, Detective Agent Wrestler is a amazing lawful good character. If anyone is interested in the Blacklist or watches the Blacklist, he's a perfect example of a lawful good character, where he does get a little annoying sometimes, but he's essentially having to work with this criminal mastermind to try and take down other criminals, and he's constantly tested in his morality that way and sticks to himself. He does bad things, but he still manages to do it in a way that's to his moral compass, and it's the character development in that show is really cool, in my opinion. But yeah, then on the opposite spectrum, we have
opposite corner,
chaotic evil.
Yay!
The I'll do whatever the hell I want
freedom.
Class.
I do what I want because
including kill people if I want to, and just whatever I want to do.
This doesn't say that your character necessarily likes doing this. They just wind up doing this for whatever reasons.
Yeah. So chaotic evil. First of all, I would state that all alignments can be played in a party.
Yeah.
You can work in any alignment into a party. Your chaotic evil character can easily just be like, hey, as long as you're working for us, you can slaughter these bad guys. Like, they're fine killing, and they're fine working with the party as long as they get to kill something.
Yeah.
As long as they're not restricted in their vices. So a chaotic evil character is a very vicious type of character. And there are several different ways you can take chaotic evil. They can be destructive, they can be manipulative, though that falls under more neutral evil that we'll talk about. They can be insane, like the Joker's chaotic evil. Their desires are always the immediate gratification to themselves. It's always about them and what will most quickly help their vices. They're very self-focused. Brad, if you want to say any more about what I have here.
I can't really think of anything more to say for chaotic evil because it really depends on the character. Having a chaotic evil character can be so lifting and rewarding if you are able to play them right, but it can also be a terrible time if you play chaotic evil just to be evil.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a fan of that, / that's the reason why I try to get people not to do that in games that I run.
Yeah, there are different ways you can play a player character that's chaotic evil. You can either go the route of being insane, which is viable.
Can be
viable. The way I usually like players to play chaotic evil is either they're just using chaotic evil as a side category. Like, their goals aren't chaotically evil manipulated, but they do evil things along the way. They get their vice off by killing the enemies of the party or something like that. Or you have a chaotic evil character that is a manipulator, that is manipulating the party and making them think that he's a good guy or something, which is more common in neutral evil characters, but can be a chaotic evil character, or is trying to formulate this grand plan that he has. Or, finally, the emotional evil. Because chaotic evil, in my opinion, is the most often the emotional kind of evil. The kind of evil that has become evil through their inability to hedge out their rage or sadness or something along those lines. For instance, in my world, we talked about red dragons in my world. They have just no control over their emotions, and so they'll try to do good, but then when they destroy a town, when they get really angry, they'll just destroy and annihilate entire cities and populations, and then they'll be like, well, guess I'm evil now.
Oh, darn.
And yeah, so I play chaotic evil characters. That's my favorite one, is the emotional chaotic evil. You're evil because you've been emotionally warped to be so in some way. They have a great indifference towards other people's lives, and they're very dishonorable. They'll do anything and everything to commit their crimes and get what they want. They're unpredictable. But something I do like about chaotic evil characters is they have a very self-first influence, but a way to roleplay either bad villains as chaotic evil or even characters is in a way that makes them a little more human. Is chaotic evil characters oftentimes, and chaotic neutral characters do this too, if they do grow to care about individuals, which I would argue that all alignments can grow to care about individuals, as most people do, they essentially incorporate that as themselves. They take a brood, so to speak, and make it so that group comes before anything else. If they'll murder indiscriminately everything else in their path, but that group is an extension of themselves. And so, they will protect it selfishly. Yeah. They generally have slightly more self-preservation tactics than a neutral evil character, because neutral evil characters like to put themselves out there and manipulate things and stuff. But we'll talk about neutral evil character in a little bit. First of all, though, going back up to a good alignment, we have neutral good.
Neutral good?
The
sounds like a simple alignment.
Everyman good person. Neutral good is not necessarily a combination of chaotic and lawful good. It can be, but not always. A neutral good character believes that chaos and law, or freedom and law are more correct ways of saying it, are merely tools to bring out the true meaning of life and the best of people. They believe that good is the true meaning of life. Being a good person just generally, and order and chaos can help that, but they can also hinder it. Or it's not good unless it brings it to all. Chaos or freedom is not good unless it brings prosperity to all. Who's messaging, Brad?
Okay, that makes sense now. Got it. People. Sorry, my phone did an update, and it switched its sound settings.
Gotcha.
And it confused me. And I was like, I don't know how to turn this
on. The neutral good character often believes that too much of either chaos or law is a bad thing. Too much law can be restrictive of good nature, and too much chaos is divisive and community breaking, and can cause civil wars and such. They are driven to right all evils. Your general superhero is neutral good. So, like, Spider-Man is neutral good. Why can't I think of anyone else? But, like, the generic superhero is neutral good.
Iron
Man. Maybe. It depends on the source you're taking him from.
Where he...
Yeah. Thor, neutral good. I would argue. Yeah. Just from a base ace perspective, thinking about him right now. So they believe that life takes precedence over all other structures, law, anything. So, like, neutral good are the most driven to make sure that everyone survives. If ever there's a situation where a life is at risk, the life is more important than whatever else is being discussed. Individual life as well matters a lot. They will do everything in their power to preserve every single life that is possible. And also, neutral good characters are the most likely, in my opinion, of the good alignments to not kill enemies. They won't kill evil and beings that they fight. That's not always true. There are definitely neutral good characters that do, but I feel like more often neutral good are the ones that are most likely to respect the idea of keeping those people alive.
Yeah, I have a current neutral good person that I don't think has killed anyone.
I don't think he's killed anyone. I don't think he's tried not to necessarily, but that's another thing with neutral good. Neutral good is often an alignment where it's just like, I'm good because that should be how I am. You're not really trying to seek out neutral good. Some neutral good characters aren't really trying to seek out good. They're just genuinely good without having to push for it. They don't really try to, like, seek out conflict with evil or anything. They just live their lives and are good people. Yeah. Like Simple Jeff.
Simple Jeff.
Yeah. They lie only to those they believe to be in the wrong, usually truthful to allies. I can definitely see that being not true in some cases, but yeah. They can have fairly, like I said, can have fairly normal lives and ambitions, not wanting to fight the entirety of evil. Or they can attempt to be a just generic hero for good and fight evil that way. On the opposite side of the spectrum, you have our generic evil, neutral evil, which is probably my, I won't say favorite alignment. I think the most interesting alignment to me.
Really?
Yeah, I think so.
It's
definitely my favorite of the evil alignments. Well, I love all of them so much. I don't know. I don't know if I can say that for sure. But neutral evil character is out for themselves. They are big on survival of the fittest. And they go into very different... neutral evil has so many different archetypes. one of the archetypes that you have for neutral evil is it's the purest and most evil of all things. It's evil incarnate. And that's the kind of boring version of neutral evil. That is like Sauron or Galactus or anything that's like this all-powerful evil that's beyond the scope of human conception, essentially. The devil, neutral evil. Actually, the devil is more lawful evil.
Yeah,
but
devils are more lawful evil.
Yeah, but anything that's like evil incarnate is usually considered neutral evil. It's just evil for the sake of being evil. But it can also be very interesting psychologically because there are also neutral evil characters that are very focused on being evil for the sake of evil, but they do it for the sake of a game, essentially. Serial killers are most often neutral evil, in my opinion. And some people would argue chaotic evil, but and there are chaotic evil serial killers, definitely, but neutral evil is a very manipulative sort of evil. It likes to play with things and play long games a lot of times. Littlefinger from Game of Thrones is a perfect example of a neutral evil character. Just very knowledge edge and intellectually based and planning this long game from the start and manipulating all the pieces about the map. It's a very Machiavellian type of evil. But yeah, they are very challenging. They're probably, I don't know if I'd say the most challenging, but yeah, I would say probably the most challenging to play in a party as an evil character. If you're playing them as out about being evil. But you can also have them they're the most likely neutral evil character to fool, evil alignment, to fool everybody else into thinking that they're not evil. Oftentimes they will masquerade as like a neutral good or true neutral entity and be in the midst of a party and use the party as a means to continue their goals. And again, they don't fall under chaotic evil necessarily because they are willing to make deals that benefit them and work side by side with individuals. They like the society to an extent that allows them to expand their influences. They have a very single-player mentality. Likes chaotic evil. It's very self-centered. They actually are not as likely as chaotic evil to form broods, in my opinion, which is why I would say it's hard to play I would argue that it's hard to play a player character, a neutral evil character, because most of the time the goal of that is to inevitably betray the party in some way or get your evil deeds done, you know? So chaotic evil can eventually grow to enjoy those characters and protect them as his own. A neutral evil character is less inclined to do so. He'll protect them for the sake of having pieces to manipulate and because they help him on his specific goals, but not because he actually cares about them in any way. But there are exceptions. Neutral evil characters can definitely grow attachments. It's just harder to roleplay that as a party member, I think.
Text and drive. Scary things. Scary times. Anyways, talking about scary things, we were just talking about neutral evil people, which are kind of like generic evil a little bit. Sometimes. All of this is the theoretical, because we are trying to, simplify this a little bit so that we can basically throw it into an hour. We've already been here 30 minutes, and we've only talked about 4. Which is a good amount. Yeah.
We've got time still.
Yeah.
Next up,
talking about you introduced this next one.
True neutral?
Yeah.
The middle alignment?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of them, I'll be honest.
You don't like true neutral?
No.
A true neutral character is kind of wishy-washy. It's kind of hard to play as well. It does what seems to be a good idea at the time. It doesn't have strong feelings towards good, evil, law, or chaos. And they lack conviction. They more often lack conviction than they are. At least characters are more like lacking conviction towards any side of the argument, rather than being just like neutral is the way to go. Which there are monsters and like outsiders that are like neutral is the way to go. We are trying to form true balance, but that's rarely a character quality.
Yeah.
I mean, you certainly can make it a character quality, but it rarely is. They usually see good as better for themselves, sort of, but have no specific interest in holding it up themselves. Because good essentially keeps a society going oftentimes. Except in some cases, lawful evil can in some ways, to some people, be considered a better society than a chaotic good society. And in that case, they might lean towards that. There are some that, again, philosophically believe in neutrality, have this middle way path for themselves. Do you want to go on and talk about some of the other things about them?
Other things about them?
Yes.
So, where are we at, Drew?
Philosophically.
Philosophically? Some philosophically...
I already said that one. The next one down. There you go.
So, these see evil and good as other kinds of dangerous extremes, and they just want to be, like, in the middle. They don't care about going crazy either way.
That's the ones that philosophically believe in neutrality or a middle way path. They're concerned with their own well-beings and whatever group aids them at the time, but not really anyone else, unless they grow bonds to them, of course. Generally don't care about anyone outside of those they have strong views of. So that means both they don't care a lot about an individual in a good way or a bad way. Like, they won't essentially associate or do anything against someone, either good or bad, unless they feel very strongly about it. And unless you've specifically influenced their life, like killed their family or something, they won't go out of their way to take down a monarch an evil monarch, if they haven't affected them personally, essentially. Like, they have much more of a calm mentality about things oftentimes, where, like, small slights are like, whatever. You stole all my stuff. Okay.
It's kind of,
move on.
Kind of like they don't really care or don't have any, like, philosophical ground. Like, their memories might have been washed or something.
Yeah.
That could have happened.
Yeah, sometimes. They don't really, they're not really... Oh, yeah. One thing they don't like is people who are opinionated or bigoted. Any side of the spectrum that goes too far, they don't like them imposing their beliefs on them. They say some of them hold that all aspects of the alignment are necessary, and those are the more like pathway-driven ones or more transcendently inclined ones. They're often very diplomatic. Able to get around all the alignments very well. Yeah.
I had a true neutral person that was highly into diplomacy, and then he started making deals with daemons. And then he quickly became evil. It happens.
Just to throw this out there, I was not, to people commenting right now, I never raged against true neutral at all. I think it's a good starting point for a lot of people. That was Bradley.
That was 100% me.
Yes.
Wait, we have somebody listening?
Oh my gosh. Somebody? Your laws or... So, sorry. I started talking about the next alignment without actually saying what the next alignment is going to be. Our next alignment is going with the other or neutral alignments now, is lawful neutral. This is an interesting alignment.
Wait.
This is probably the least common player race that you'll see.
Really?
Because it's hard to play.
Oh, I would have so much fun with this.
Yeah, I love lawful neutral. Again, I love all of them so much. But
Drew just has a lot of fun.
A lawful neutral character is interesting because a lot of the times it's based in a society, but it can just as easily be based on an internal code to oneself, like a monk's code or traveler's code, so to speak. And the code that you have for yourself can often be most things that you want it to be. It can't just be like there are no laws. That's not the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
But oftentimes the lawful neutral character acts on some sort of tradition, societal laws, or personal code. There's a lot of instances of lawful neutral characters that follow, for instance, a religious path. For instance, in Game of Thrones, I would argue that the Red Lady, Melisandre, in Game of Thrones, is a lawful neutral character because she does some evil things, but she's doing it. The reasons she's doing it are for a very religious, traditional philosophy. And it's less malicious than it is just, this is what we have to do to get by. But there are also lawful neutral characters that are just part of the law and focus on the law being the first and foremost thing that matters, putting the word of the law before the spirit of the law. So like Judge Dredd, for instance, is a lawful neutral character because he goes about and will punish you for any crime that you commit, essentially. It doesn't matter what it is. If you jaywalk or something, that's punishable. Now, a lawful neutral character doesn't have to follow like societal laws. Again, they can have their own tradition or personal code that they follow. For instance, our lawful neutral character had their own sort of societal laws from their own culture. Dante. Had their own societal laws from their own culture, but also had a kind of personal code where they weren't like obeying the laws of every city they went into necessarily, but they had their own beliefs about what was right and what was wrong based on the society and the faith that they came from. The law is supposed to, in their opinion, apply to all people no matter who they are. They don't like when lawful evil characters or lawful good characters use the law as a means to push their agenda, essentially, of either helping themselves in lawful evil's case or helping people rise up in lawful good's characters' cases. There is also the lawmaker archetype, which just opposes chaos and the absence of laws in general, and fights against chaos and free reign, essentially. Lawful neutral characters can be slavers a lot of times. Lawful evil are more likely to be slavers. Actually, sometimes even lawful good characters in some cases, though usually they will try to make it better-ish.
They're not slaves.
Yeah, better-ish, or try to up in the system in some way. But yeah, lawful neutral characters don't really care about that sort of thing. Oftentimes, they never lie. They're the biggest class for you. You never lie, and you always keep your words. And you don't try to look for loopholes either. Lawful evil characters are very big into finding loopholes in laws. That's not what it's about. The laws need to be crystal clear, and they need to be the same for everyone. But yeah, it is a hard class to play as a character because it's hard to stay strongly inclined to whatever morals or whatever personal code you've set for yourself or societal laws you've set for yourself. And a lot of people don't find it very interesting to play. Lawful neutral characters are sometimes, especially when you show people the different characters that lawful neutral characters are, because there's not a lot of interesting lawful neutral characters out there, and I think that's a shame because lawful neutral is a cool class when done right. Cool alignment when done right. Mm-hmm. But then on the other side of the spectrum, we let all hell break loose, and we have chaotic neutral. which just does whatever the hell they want to an extent. Chaotic neutral is the completely unbound, freedom reigns type of alignment. They're very unpredictable, and they fall into many different archetypes. One is the hedonist, which hunts their desires, but the desires aren't evil. So, like, they are only interested in their vices and what helps them. They're a very selfish type of chaotic neutral. But usually their vices aren't evil. They're like sex or alcohol or something like that.
Gambling.
Gambling for our particular one. But they don't do it. That's not the same to them as, like, my vice is murdering people. Like, what? What's wrong with you? Then you have the anarchist subtype, which is the type of chaotic neutral that are revolutionaries and challenge the establishment and go against societies and stuff. Then you have the more subdued type of that, which is the rebel, which is more like just a counterculture type of movement. They don't really obey the more... not necessarily they don't obey the laws, they just don't obey the societal norms of the world, essentially. They'll go out into the wild sometimes, or they'll just live on the streets even though they don't need to, or stuff like that. And then the fourth type is the nutter, which is just the plain crazy person. Is usually considered chaotic neutral because it's hard. It's really, I don't necessarily agree with that, but also I can't see a place to put a plain crazy person. They could really go anywhere in the alignment field depending on what their specific craziness is. But yeah. Now chaotic neutral is people often play it in game, and
I'm not evil. I'm chaotic neutral.
Yeah, they get ahead of themselves. It's very
fun.
easy sometimes to become annoying with this alignment because it's just like people will play it to the utmost crazy point. Like,
I just want to ignite...
Why did you just shoot that bartender? Because I'm chaotic neutral and I do whatever I want on the whim, on a whim. Which, I mean, yes, a chaotic neutral character follows their whims, but most of them also aren't stupid. Chaotic neutral shouldn't equal chaotic stupid.
So, none of the alignments dictate your intelligence or wisdom. They are just a morale system.
Yes. They care about being free, but they're not going to put unwarranted attention on themselves if they can help it, depending on the archetype you're playing.
Also, all alignments can be dumb.
That's true, but still should be controlled in some way. But chaotic neutral character, like, a lot of people play chaotic neutral character and they're like, I'm going to go kill a bunch of people who are bad or slightly less good than me. Chaotic neutral characters are oftentimes also like thieves and stuff, and like people will play them as like thieves and like steal stuff, and then they'll start killing people who get in their way, which is not what a chaotic neutral character would usually do, because yes, they will do whatever they want to do, but they're not going to kill people along the way of their crimes because they don't want attention, because then they go to jail and they lose their freedom. So they don't want to leave loose ends that can come back to bite them because a city wants revenge for the multiple murders they've committed. Now, that's not to say that chaotic neutral characters can't kill people, and they definitely will if their life is at stake, without any real qualms about it, usually. But a lot of people play it as just like... a lot of people play chaotic neutral characters as an evil character without the name evil. and that's not how it's supposed to be played. No, no.
Gucci. No Gucci. No.
But yeah, they care about their own freedoms, but not necessarily others, which distinguishes them from chaotic good. Because yeah, they care about their own freedoms first, and if like they're going against establishment to help their own freedoms be fulfilled, then and they'll do it. But if it's for other people and they're already free, oftentimes they won't care about that or do anything about that. Now that can vary. Jericho, our chaotic neutral character, is very much like anti-establishment and freeing people. But he also does enough bad things that I wouldn't consider him chaotic good a lot of the times. They avoid authority and challenges, and they challenge tradition a lot of time at every turn. They're one of the more likely alignments to be against religion, in my opinion. There are some chaotic neutral characters. This is more often a case of chaotic neutral monsters than characters that are all about pure entropic chaos and causing chaos wherever they go. They live just to spread chaos. That's rarely a player character, and more often like supernatural entities that do that are chaotic neutral.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right.
We just finished off on chaotic neutral, which is not evil.
And not chaotic stupid.
Yeah, but you want to know something smarter that is evil.
Lawful evil?
Yeah. Love these boys.
Awful evil?
Lawful evil? Awful evil?
No, lawful evil's great.
Lawful.
So...
They're beautiful. I like
lawful evil is very fun to play as a character. Because sometimes a lawful evil character can actually be more easy to work with as a party than a chaotic good or chaotic neutral character.
100%.
Because they understand the benefits of working with a group or in a society. They can see the benefits of a group that they can help in their different goals, and then that group will then help them in their specific goals. And lawful evil character is a great character if you want to be evil, but not super evil, because lawful evil characters are the most likely of the evil alignments to have a sort of code of conduct. That's sort of like a moral compass. It's more just like a set of restrictions on themselves, usually. Like a lawful evil character, like some lawful evil characters have a stricture of, I'll kill anyone, I won't kill children, or something like that. They have certain standards that they meet, and oftentimes those standards are because they benefit them in some ways. I mean, killing children obviously brings a lot of attention to themselves, but it can also be for moral reasons. And lawful evil characters, there's a lot of lawful evil characters that are lawful evil because that's what they have to do to get their what they want. It's a means to an end sort of thing, essentially. Mm-hmm. They are easily able to hurt others, but will oftentimes not directly try to hurt people if they can help it. That's not true of all lawful evil characters. For instance, like hobgoblins will definitely go and hurt you because they're very militaristic, hierarchy-based lawful evil. They care about tradition, they care about loyalty, and they care about order. So a lawful evil character, a common archetype, is the tyrant sort of individual, where they work their way up through a society and become the master over laws. So that, like, they're obeying the law, but the law is their word. So it's lawful, it's honorable, it's following a tradition, but it's also evil. they do play by the rules oftentimes when it comes to like fighting or something. To an extent, they are very good at finding loopholes in things, especially when it comes to contracts and stuff, where they will obey the words of the contract, but if there's any sort of loophole, they'll take advantage of that.
Mm-hmm.
So, for instance, a lawful evil character could say, if you give me this information, I won't kill you. And then you give them the information, and they'll be like, well, thank you very much. Bertram, please kill them. And they're like, wait, what are you talking about? You said, no, I said I wouldn't kill you. I never said anything about Bertram. They generally don't have a lot of mercy or compassion. At least the villain archetype of them don't have a lot of mercy or compassion towards people, and they're oftentimes very interested in like slavery and stuff like that. Anything more that you want to look over these and talk about, Brad?
I just very much like laws with an evil twist.
Yeah.
Love those
Now, a lawful evil character doesn't always want to get to the top of a system. They're very willing to serve as well, at least to an end. Though there are some lawful evil characters that truly just like to serve and be the minions of things. For instance, in my world, purple dragons just like to serve some sort of higher power in a hierarchical system, usually evil. But they can also find their way as like toadies or bodyguards of good characters as well. As long as they're able to follow the rules at their own discretion, in a way. Like, kill all the enemies of their leaders in any way they desire. They believe that some of these rules and stuff, oftentimes, they believe that it puts them above other villains. So they're willing to work with other villains and often use them as underlings. But they will just as easily go to war with an evil nation as they will a good nation. For instance, actually, in the D&D cosmology, devils actually do not have a war with the angels. They're actually kind of okay by the angels in most realms. They have a war with the demons, the chaotic evil realm. They have an growing war against the infernal chaos, the abyssal chaos of the demons. That's just a constant war.
It's great.
They're kind of unflexible in their strictures a lot of times, unless it suits them.
I mean, that's all with like the lawful.
Yeah, people. They also often have contingency plans to a lot of things, and may even believe what they're doing is right. And sometimes, depending on the ends that their means bring, it can be right.
Yeah.
Not necessarily always because they wanted it to be, but oftentimes they can serve or side by side with good characters and do something that is truly good that somehow benefits them. But yeah. And then finally, we have chaotic good.
Chaotic good.
Yeah. I mean, chaotic good's... I gotta say, this is probably my least favorite alignment.
It used to be my favorite. Now as a DM, I'm less...
Chaotic good characters place value on freedom and random actions. They have a great value of life and also individual welfare. And they think that individual life and individual freedoms are more important than a societal good, essentially.
Yeah, these are your romantics.
The individual is more important than the community to them.
Yeah.
They're usually counter to society or organizations. What we talked about there being the rebel archetype and chaotic neutral, even more so for chaotic good characters. There's a lot of chaotic good characters that go against tyrants and stuff, against lawful evil characters, to bring about the end of tyranny. They believe that they do believe that life is useless without freedom, and so like they believe that, I mean, this is an extreme case, but like if you have to bomb a jail to bring about goodness for some reason, like if you have to bomb a jail to invade a particular city and all of the prisoners die, that's fine because their life is pretty much useless, worthless to them if they're not free. Like, obviously, a couple of them will become free, but if lives are lost in that, for the sake of freeing this city entirely, that is okay by a chaotic good character, in many ways. A chaotic good character is, it's not necessarily a class an alignment I dislike, as it's just boring to talk about, I guess, in my opinion. Because it is a good class if you want to be a good character, but also not be limited by rules and stuff. Like, a chaotic good character is totally fine with using poison, using dirty tricks in combat, lying to anyone they need to, but doing all of that for the sake of bettering society. Well, bettering people and individuals, but yes, they disregard the law in their fight for good. They don't respond well to higher authority, even lawful or good authorities most of the time. They don't care much about self-discipline or honor because those things restrict the freedom to act against evil in their minds. Mm-hmm. But yeah, there's, in my opinion, chaotic good. I should take that back. I do like chaotic good. It's just there's the least to talk about with chaotic good. There's not a lot to it as much as some of the other alignments in my mind.
Yeah.
It's just we do good no matter what. Yeah.
It's really open-ended, just like they are.
Yeah. Chaotic neutral, I think, strangely, is less open-ended than chaotic good, even though that's the one that does whatever it wants. But
yeah.
Or at least it has more to it than chaotic good in my mind.
Oh yeah, more strings attached.
But yeah, that was our show. Next week, I think we're talking about feats. Let me just double check that.
Oh, we're gonna have fun next week then.
Yeah, because
we're gonna fight.
We are gonna fight. Let me just make sure that's true. Yes, we're talking about feats next week. Great.
That's right before spring break.
Yeah, which means it's gonna be hard to write stuff for it because midterms and stuff. But that's okay. Yeah. I'll get it done. Anyway, hope you enjoyed our show today. We're ending right on the hour, Brad. That's amazing.
I'm really surprised.
Yeah. So this has been D&D with BND, saying a lot to somebody.
All right.
On WCCX.
Waukesha 104.5 FM.